am a retired Air Force veteran, and I was in the military for 20 years.
What was your job?
When you're in the Air Force for 20 years, you start with a job, I guess, and then you move to many others. I think most of my career, I was an avionics electrician. They would take stuff out of the plane, and I would go fix it and put it back in the plane.
Okay, so basically I can relate to that one because I was 35 Echo radio ComSec repair. Anything we used to talk, we got to fix. So
yeah, you and I pretty much did the same thing.
Just yours flew and mine went through the ground.
I don't know, some of those helicopters.
I could imagine. I know when I was fixing stuff, the weird stories that you would get of how stuff got damaged. We had one that brought in a radio. The whole top was just crushed, and he told us he dropped it. Come to find out, he actually had a tank run over it.
Please fix this.
Come on, man. I know. I got to do a lot of paperwork just to do that.
Yeah. No, we didn't have anything crazy like that. I think the worst I saw was maybe them dropping a radar RT on the ground. It's a big old ding in it. Costs a couple million to repair, but yeah.
It's amazing how much that stuff actually costs. Because I think we had a circuit card that was like $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's basically the only reason we had to have secret clearance. Yeah. So
that's cheap.
In the military terms, yes.
Yeah.
Deployment.
Hmm?
Do you do any deployment?
So when I say deployments, I use the term loosely because the two bases I was at, anybody else would consider, a vacation holiday. I spent time at Al Udeid Air Force Base, over in Qatar, and everybody looks at that like, okay, that's not really a deployment. Yeah. So, but I was there for a good 6 months setting up a avionics test station on their flight line over there.
Okay.
After that, I was deployed to Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, but after we had already given it back to the Saudis. So we were once again back in Tent City in a nice little, backwards podunk middle of nowhere.
But I mean, even as far as deployments go, those had to have been somewhat nice, though. Nice.
You know what? Relative. So I am thankful every day for what I was able to experience, but I do not for a single second discount any other deployments because Lord knows, like there have been much worse.
Well, I mean, it's like I've told people before. You hear someone say that they had the job as a cook in the military, and they almost automatically discredit that, and you're just like, no, cooks actually had a lot to do.
Yeah,
they were up before we were. And most likely went to bed after us, and all the stuff that they had to do, and all the people complaining about the food. Yeah. So.
I'm glad you bring that up because you're 100% correct with that. When we were at PSAB, and before they had moved into a hardened DFAC, they had the tents. They had, they were up making the food. When I had to be at work at 6, the food was already out there ready to go. When I was a military training instructor, I would tell my flights all the time, what do you think is the most important job in the Air Force? And, they'll tell me pilot, this or that. I was like, wrong. It's the cooks. It's the nurses. It's the people that take care of you at the lowest level are the most important people in the Air Force.
Your armor, your supply, you never upset supply.
Yeah. 100%.
and you piss off your armor, you're never going to turn your weapon in. It will never be clean to standards, even the governmental original standards of a clean weapon.
Yeah. But you mentioned supply too. Like another job I had as a master sergeant, I was a flight line expediter. I'm sorry, not a flight line expediter. I was a maintenance supervisor. I ran all the maintenance in the squadron, but I had to reach out to other squadrons to, coordinate work. Of course, I had to reach out to my supply partners and talk with them. And I learned very quickly, don't ever piss them off.
Yeah, and for at least for the Army, if it was anything like S1, S2, S3, you don't piss them off either.
No.
They can ruin your career quickly, literally with a pen stroke.
I don't want to find out.
So, what got you into the Air Force? What was your driving force to join?
I was working as a kind of all-encompassing line cook, dishwasher, cashier at a cafe that was in a Saks Fifth Avenue distribution in Aberdeen. And I had gone to my boss. I'm like, hey, can I get a raise? And she's like, well, you got a degree. I'm like, no, I can't get a degree because I can't get a raise. I can't get a raise, so I can't go up at work. I can't go up at work because I don't have a degree. And I think that it's that vicious cycle that a lot of people join the military, and that's exactly why I joined. Because there was one day I was like, okay, I can't get out of this vicious cycle. I want out. I want to go to a completely different place. I want a completely different job. Um, and really, the only thing that made sense to me at the moment was the military. And once I decided to join the military, I had always known that I wanted to join the Air Force or the Navy. And when it came to the Navy, the only thing I wanted to do was drive the freaking sub. Like, I didn't want to do anything else. I don't want to be on the ships or anything. I wanted to be the dude that was sitting behind that awesome rig and just being like, down, put your shoe, honestly, when I started looking into that, it became very unrealistic for me to do that job in the Navy. So Air Force it was. And I went to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I'm going to join the Air Force. What do you think I should do? And he said, son, well, no, at the time he had a job that was called electronic warfare. He's like, I'm electronic warfare. And I asked him to, what does that mean in Army lingo? And he's like, at the time, electronic warfare for the Army was sitting behind a computer guarding the networks against, foreign intrusion and things like that. And I was like, that sounds freaking sweet. So I went to my Air Force recruiter and he was like, hey, what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to be electronic warfare. And he was like, okay, got it. 2 Alpha. Fixing planes. I'm like, no. I want to do electronic warfare. He's like, yeah, that's what this is. 2 Alpha 0, X something. I'm like, okay, cool. Guaranteed job. Electronic warfare. Come to find out, electronic warfare in the Air Force is aircraft maintenance, fixing pods and sensor pods and all of the amazing things that countermeasures, that go on the outside of the aircraft. And not what I expected, but pleasantly surprised.
Not what you hoped for, but once you got into it, you're like, oh, I could kind of get behind this.
Absolutely.
So what was that kind of job like, though? What all did it entail? How long was your training?
After graduating basic military training, we went over to Keesler Air Force Base for about a couple months. And this was pre-Katrina. So it was built up. It was right next to Biloxi, I think it was, or right down the road. And so tech school there, about 2 months, was pretty freaking sweet. After that, we had done electronic principles there. And once that was done, we got sent over to Shepherd Air Force Base, where we finished up the rest of the maintenance school. And that was the thing that they had actually called sets in the Air Force, where you do blocks of training to learn how to repair certain aircraft, how to repair them, and I do mean the basics. So that was about another 9 months or so, because we ended up leaving Shepherd, I want to say in January of 2004. Yep.
That's about how long mine was. It was about a 9-month long advanced training. And I've heard that when you come out of those types of trainings, that it's almost like having a 2-year degree.
Yeah.
Which scares the hell out of me, because I'm going, you just crammed 2 years of electronics work into my little brain and learning schematics, blueprints, and all this stuff. And 18, 19 years old, I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because in the Air Force, when an airman is going for their CCF, that does act like an associate's degree. So especially for me coming out of the aircraft maintenance, when I finally finished, I had to knock out maybe a speech and a couple math classes to finish that up. The Air Force paid for it, but I had a CCF degree, an associate's degree, and I was able to take that completed associates and transfer it over to Embry-Riddle, literally go straight into a bachelor's degree of aeronautics. So it was, you mentioned the 2 year worth of knowledge, and it was 2 years worth of knowledge crapped into like almost 1 year.
I mean, it'd be nice if a lot more jobs actually did that from the military, especially transitioning to the civilian world. Because I know when I transitioned, my job didn't really transfer much. So it was like, get out, start over, try to figure out what I want to do in this world.
Yeah. And for me, it was the same way. I was looking at my degree, in aeronautics, and I was like, okay, well, this kind of limited me, and, especially with my military background fixing aircraft. that really kind of pigeonholes you into one thing. Like,
Mhm.
I guess I'm going to be aircraft maintenance for the rest of my life. Uh, eh, you know? So it's, yeah, I can feel that.
So why not pursue that after the military though? Because I mean, even at that, aircraft maintenance, that's some buku bucks.
It is 100% buku bucks. It's also one of the harder jobs to do.
Mm.
And by harder, I'm not necessarily meaning, the job itself. We have technical manuals. The job becomes easy.
Mhm.
What makes it harder is that in my experience, maintenance gets ridden really, really hard.
Mm.
Sometimes commanders will stand up for their people, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they want to get a foot in with their commander, or they have a certain way of looking at their manpower that are beneath them.
Mhm.
I didn't agree with a lot of some of the maintenance policies that were going on, but living through that, it kind of made me realize maintenance for me is not where I want to be.
It was good enough for the military, but after so long of doing it, you're just like trying to move on.
Oh yeah,
Hang up
100.
your hat and go.
Yeah, like I'm done.
Let's just wipe that clean and go. So while in the Air Force, I mean, any significant moments that really truly stand out that made you go, this is where I belong, this is where I should be, this is where I want to do my career?
The very first one I had was when I was a military training instructor, and going through that training, I had always thought was very interesting because I had learned very quickly that one of the things I love the most is to teach.
Mhm.
Absolutely love to teach. And then at the time, I was about a staff sergeant. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm loving this customs and courtesies things because I had just gotten out of ALS. We actually had to march in ALS.
Mm.
And, I remember a couple things from basic, and I really enjoyed teaching people that drill. So that's what led me to the MTI duty. And while I was an MTI, leading that first flight down the bomb run is just absolutely surreal. You go through months and months and months of training. You go through constant hands-on, constant, somebody's over your shoulder 24/7, helping you learn. But then for the first time, that leash comes off and you realize you're walking down the bomb run, which is our marching freeway for pass and review. In basic, you're marching down the bomb run, and there just comes a moment where you're like, "Oh shit, I'm here right now!" Like, wow. So I will never ever forget that moment. It's truly amazing, or that moment. Um, and it's so funny because the second one came also when I was an MTI. Um, Not to toot my own horn, but I was able to train people really good. So I went and trained the MTIs. And that second moment came, after constantly preparing her and working nonstop and, getting that drive, watching her march down the bomb run, doing this exact same thing that I had done. It was just, I was like, proud moment.
Yeah, kind of like watching a kid, seeing your kid grow up and learn and finally get to that point, and you're like, oh, that's a little proud bit for me.
Absolutely.
So, for the people who are not familiar with the Air Force lingo, like some of us Army guys, what is MTI and ALS? I'm thinking
Yes,
ALS.
right.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
ALS is Airman Leadership School.
100%. Yeah. No, sometimes I forget, like, I get talking about the military, and, even in the civilian world, they're like, you got to drop the military lingo. And it's hard to do. But yes, you're right. ALS is Airman Leadership School. That school is what people go through about the E4 range. It's their first dose of re-bluing, so to speak.
Basically, RPLDC for sergeant's training.
Most likely, because I don't know Army lingo.
We'll see, I can do it back.
And then the second one was a military training instructor.
Okay.
The guys that wear the big floppy hats, I think they're called drill instructors in the Army.
Drill sergeants, drill
sergeants.
instructors, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was me.
So basically, you were a drill sergeant for a while.
Yes, 3.5 years.
Okay. How was that like, though?
Fucking loved it.
Still loved it?
I loved every moment. So remember how I told you going through ALS, right?
Mhm.
My entire flight, when we learned that we needed to march, it was like, wait, what? We by that time we hadn't marched in almost 5 years, 4 or 5 years. since graduating basics. So nobody in my flight was like, I don't remember how to march. Like we graduated basic and dropped that shit, you know? I was the only one that did because I actually love drill. I thought drill was pretty damn cool. And so I remembered everything. I was like, look, guys, I'll train everybody up and I'll get it going. And going through that process, training them, fixing the, the mistakes, because we all wanted to get a good grade for this. Fixing their mistakes really helped me realize I'm like, that's something I can do. Like I am imparting information that I had onto somebody that needs it. And so I was training them up, and I was like, you know what? That was the catalyst for like I want to be a DI or a DS, drill sergeant.
DS. We just call them drills.
Yeah, there you go.
And so basically, are you graded overall on your students' performance at that time, though? Like, if you guys are supposed to be teaching them drill and everything, and they're just botching it and eating it all up, does that reflect badly on you and your performance reviews, or?
So yes and no. I mean, yes, in the fact that like if my student is not performing up to metrics, what am I doing to fix that? And part of that is, are my methods wrong? Are they doing that? Me not being able to realize that, yes, comes out in my performance review. But no, also in the fact that at the time, the Air Force was pulling, technical sergeants, master sergeants, staff sergeants who are super people. So the people that they're bringing in know what the F they're doing. So it also becomes a personal, like, you're a technical sergeant, pull your head out of your ass type thing, But that's why I say yes and no.
I can see that. I mean, by the time you're at that rank, I mean, and everything, you should already almost have it down, or could be getting it down very quickly.
Yes.
Rather than being a new recruit type thing.
Absolutely.
What happened after drill school?
Drill school.
ATI.
Yep. So after school, I went over to the 320th Training Squadron. And that was my very first, actual, I can't say not duty suit, assignment at San Antonio was the 320th Training Squadron. And I led flights there for a good year.
Is that over there at Lackland?
Yep. Right over there at Lackland in one of the old RH&Ts that I don't think they have anymore because they replaced them all with huge ATCs now.
Yeah, because that's one of their main training centers, isn't it?
It is the main training center. Yep.
Because they also have the medical up there.
Yes.
Don't they?
They have a Wilford Medical Hall, but I think that got renamed to something else. But San Antonio is also a huge medical base for the Army, I think it was. Fort Hood, or the one that's on West San Antonio. East San Antonio.
I want to say it's like Fort Hood is, I thought it was Dallas. Now I'm going to hate myself for not knowing this.
Yeah, there's a big military base in Northeast San Antonio.
I want to say it's like Sam Houston Medical or something, but yeah.
That sounds right. There you go.
I know what it is. I just can't process it right now.
Yeah, and I lived there for 3.5 years, so I get it.
Yeah, my grandmother lived up there in San Antonio, so anytime we visit them, we'd always see all the airmen and everybody out and across the town and stuff, going down the river walk and things. So
yeah, I avoided it like the plague for that exact reason.
And it's usually bad like that at any major military post, whether it's Air Force, Marines, Army. It's you're gonna always see those brand new recruits out there who think they have the whole world gloriously in front of them, and they're practicing their marching cadences at the mall.
Oh man,
it happens.
Regrettably.
So how long was your basic? Aren't y'all at 6 weeks?
You know what? It's changed like freaking toilet paper, dude. When I was there, it was still, I want to say 7 weeks. But when I was, I want to say when I went through as a trainee, it was about 7 weeks. I think, if it's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I know when I was there as a military training instructor, it was 7 weeks. We had done a 7-week schedule.
When did you get out?
I got out in 2023.
Okay, not that long ago. Wow.
Yeah. 3 whole years. Woo.
You did better than I did.
Actually, I just realized I've been retired for 3 years as of May 1st.
Wait till you realize that you've been out of the military for 20 years and could have retired. It happens. Going back on those 20 years, you look back and go, man, that was not that long ago, but it seems like yesterday, but it's been so long. How did 20 years pass that quick?
It does feel like a blink of an eye sometimes.
But then, you get all those people in the military that complain about the military, complain about the lifestyle inside the military. But once they get out, they're like, I have no idea what to do. I am so bored. I need something.
And you know what? I was the same way. 100%. I got out of the military, and at least, when I had done that, I had an idea of what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
That idea was basically bringing the idea that, like textile hobbies like knitting and crochet have therapeutic value. And I wanted to bring that to, veterans and, other guys out there. So when I started doing that after the military, like you were talking about with purpose, definitely felt like I had purpose again.
So did you transition from the military to the textile aspects, or did you have like a little period in there that you're doing other things? Because I'm trying to figure out how you go from aviation electronics to knitting and quilting.
Yeah. When I was a military training instructor, especially as you lead flights, you lead tons and tons and tons of flights. Each flight has a T-shirt that they like to come out with. They'll put their names on it. They'll draw a little design. And so as a training instructor, you just get tons of shirts. And I had gotten to the point where I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with all these T-shirts? Like, it's not practical for me to just, hang them somewhere. That's a lot of shirts. So a friend of mine was like, why don't you make a quilt from them? And for some reason that just clicked really well. I wish I could explain why, but I was like, you know what? That sounds really freaking cool. But at the same time, I knew immediately if I was going to do that, I needed to do it myself. Those shirts are one of a kind, completely unique. There's only, let's say, maybe 30 out there in the world, from the trainees, most of which are probably destroyed by now or gone. The shirt is priceless, so if I mail those out, I already know for a fact if I mail them out to a company that makes T-shirt quilts, I'm going to get back a basic square that looks boring as fuck. And I mean, if you look at the shirts, they're anything but. So I definitely knew that I needed to do them justice, and I didn't trust mailing them off to somebody to do that. So it very quickly became a question of, well, I can't just jump into it. Like, you can't just go from knowing nothing to all of a sudden making a big freaking sweet T-shirt quilt that looks fucking awesome, So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I need to learn to sew. And that, I was like, for some reason I took to that really quick. A very simple thing to do. And then from there it was like, okay, well, I'm going to make a practice quilt. And I made my son a little baby blanket. It looks fucking atrocious, but I made him a little baby blanket. And then from there, it was like, okay, I'm going to maybe increase another technical part of this. I'm going to work. I'm going to learn a couple things so that when I get to my T-shirt quilt, I can make it look sweet. And so I made about 2 or 3 quilts coming out of that. And the first time you make your very first quilt and you get it back from, the person who's doing the long arming for you, you have this insane sense of pride. You're like, holy shit, I did that. I made that. That's fucking cool. Like, really cool. And then on top of that, like, especially if you give them away as gifts to something like that, like seeing their face is like knowing that you made something for them. It's that reciprocity that you get from gift giving, all of that led to how I got into quilting. Because with that last quilt, I looked at my T-shirts and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hit this now. And I took my time, because I wanted to do it right, and sent it off, got it long armed, came back, and the moment I saw it, my mind just went blank. It went completely blank because it was so fucking cool. And it was exactly what I had seen in my head. And I knew that I had done the materials justice. And I wish I could describe that feeling. That was like really fucking cool. And that is what really got me hooked into quilting. And then after doing quilting for a little while, you start to notice certain things, you start to learn certain things. Um, your brain just kind of goes on autopilot. Even in quilting, my brain would just, when you have 100, 250 pieces to do, your brain just goes into autopilot and just kind of melts, you know? And that's what I discovered with quilting. And that's why I kept on doing it, because I realized just the feeling of your brain melting is freaking sweet.
I had something in mind and I just went blank as soon as I coughed.
Sorry.
No, you were mentioning stuff, and I was thinking, and I'm like, I gotta cough, but I gotta wait till he's done talking before I cough. And I did it, and it's like everything just cleared out. No, I think I told you my mom actually. I gave her all my old uniforms because I didn't know what to do with them. I got uniforms from deployments. Went through 3 different iterations of the Army's uniforms. Had no clue what to do with them, and finally one day I was expecting my little one, and I asked her, "Hey, can you just take all my uniforms, make them into a blanket for him?" And it fit his bed perfectly. It was his crib blanket for the longest time, and it, like you said, it is an amazing feeling seeing going. I know what these uniforms been through. I know what the story behind them is, and now they're what's keeping my kid comfortable. That's what's keeping my brain satisfied and calmed down. And it is a very hard to describe experience when you have something like that that means so much to you
Yeah.
being there. So
And I think that'll be subjective for, everybody too. It's a lot. There are certain people that, respond better to
mhm,
that emotional connection, more than others. But I always tell people, quilting may not be for everybody.
yeah,
And it certainly isn't for everybody. I know people who hate to sew. So it may not be for you. But there's just a whole demographic of people out there that won't try it. They won't even think twice about it, just because of a stigma that constantly surrounds those hobbies,
mhm,
like quilting. Um, being in San Antonio, as I'm discovering at the very basics, and then even up in Abilene, after we went from San Antonio to Dias, the the amount of the stigma, not the amount of the stigma, but the stigma that is out there was very prevalent up to, maybe 10 years ago.
mhm.
Um, and it was that stigma that just kind of got me thinking about like, why? Like, why is there a stigma around it? And it took an amazing lady by the name of Brenda Keith from a quilt shop in the Oaks up in
Hmm.
Abilene, just up in Abilene, super red, everything is just very, you know, out there. And she basically said, like, what? Hi,
Mhm.
welcome in, welcomed in a male quilter to that space. And, she was just absolutely open. And it was just really amazing to be able to feel that.
And I think that stigma holds a lot of people back, and I know for the longest time, women and females had the issue with getting into stuff like mechanics or any other male looked at profession, and it's almost kind of ironic that you got a male, and by no small means like a small or whatnot male, like not a feeble one, just an actual person trying to get into this female centric hobby. And then of course we get the guys that are like, oh, you can't do that, that's so not guy-like. And
Yeah.
it, one of my the hilarious ones I've seen was a video by Five Finger Death Punch, and they start out with that big bald headed a biker looking dude just sitting there quilting away, and he looks so satisfied.
Yeah. It will absolutely melt your brain. When I first, started my business and I was trying to figure out what I needed to do for yarn, I picked up crochet. I had been trying to do that for a while, and very quickly found out, as I'm getting into crochet, a lot of the science that is behind it, and it's proven like repetitive actions with your hands. So I'm not, just basically speaking of knitting and crochet, but being able to repetitively move with your hands and you can just sink into that feeling, whether you're woodworking, whittling, or anything you can do with your hands has been shown to help reduce anxiety, help reduce depression. When you put a crochet hook in your hand, all of a sudden, not only are you fighting, anxiety, depression, PTSD, now you're making something. And you and I were talking about stories earlier, and my company is, set out to tell those stories. So, like, we want to take that dude's scarf that he's knitting or rage knitting because, he's dealing with some things. And we want to be able to show people, like, you can do this and you can have something to remember it by, like to help you process that if need be. And that's what we're out here to do.
Basically, take all that rage, that negative energy, and focus into something more or less positive. And because there's so many people that don't know what to do when they get upset, they don't know what to do when they're having either a PTSD issue or an anxiety issue, and then you hear all the normal stigma or even just what other people say that they've experienced, and it's just not everything works for one person.
Yeah. And, I suffer from a pretty severe case of anxiety. And when I found the quilting part, that's how I helped realize that when you get to a point where you are on autopilot, your brain just kind of shuts off and it only concentrates on that. I noticed that those thoughts were no longer there. The craziness of the world just wasn't there anymore. And that's something why, I continued to quilt, why I continued to knock out things over and over again. Now that I have crochet and now that I have knitting, because I'm still expanding through my foundation, I'm still noticing the same thing. I could sit down, I could go somewhere, maybe not even be, having an episode or anything like that, just be able to sit there and crochet and just let my mind just slip away for a good, I don't know, 30 minutes, maybe because I'm running early or something. But being able to just do that is really amazing.
And I don't think a lot of people truly understand that when you're going through like these kind of episodes and stuff, your brain just won't shut up.
No, it won't.
Being able to get the satisfaction of your brain just going on autopilot and calming down and literally just shutting up for even 15, 30 minutes, it's blissful.
It is 100%.
I would say that's where I get most of my good thinking done, but it doesn't happen that way.
Sometimes I'll get some good ideas like in the middle of doing something, like, because my brain does shut off, but I've also realized that I can use it as a focusing tool. If I am working on a specific pattern that requires the bare minimum of brain power, but there is some brain power, it allows me to use it as a focusing tool to kind of work through other things. What I mean by that is I constantly have to come up with new ideas for social media, like we were talking later. So it's not unknown for me to sit down and be working on a project and be like, okay, well, I could do this, or I could do that, or okay, slip, flip, knit, do this. So how about that idea? Okay, slip, slip, knit, So it's amazing what we've even heard from teachers from Hamilton Elementary School, and Tomball High School, how students will use crochet in the class to help them focus on the topic. We've heard that firsthand from Kate Wells over at Hamilton Elementary. So not only is the science there, like, I mean, it's proven, like I've seen it with my eyes.
So it's basically kind of like the original fidget spinner, but more old school.
And you know what? A lot more productive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
A lot more productive. At least with a fidget spinner, you go, ding, but at least, you get a crochet. Like, man, sooner or later you'll get a hat. That's cool.
You'll end up with something. You might get a blanket for your foot or a full-fledged blanket.
Yeah. Whatever works.
So how do you plan to market this to more guys and bring more guys in?
Yes. Interestingly enough, that's something that we are figuring out every day. Right now, it's me and a friend of mine that are running the organization. And we definitely want to reach out to more guys, but reaching out to, the Houston veterans, or reaching out to you, being able to sit down and talk about this on your
Mhm.
podcast, being able to create spaces for guys to come in. Um, that is how we plan on getting out there and doing that. Uh, there are so many other demographics that could use these textile hobbies, such as lawyers, doctors.
Mhm.
Of course, we're talking about military veterans. Um, Reaching out to them, like finding those guys, bringing those guys in, but definitely want to stress like it's for everybody. So as we grow, we're reaching out more and more.
I think it's going to be kind of a bit of a battle for you to break that stigma ceiling and everything, and in order to do it. But I mean, I think it's a very possible and a very worthwhile endeavor that you're going to have to fight for.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I went into this knowing full well that there are minds that I'm not going to change. And that's okay, because this isn't for you. It's it fact of life. But what we realize too is that there are just tons of people out there that are willing to pick it up and really just needed a small push.
I think a lot of that is, I mean, how many have actually really sat there and considered it going, I'm going through an anxiety attack. Let me pull out my crochet needles and stuff. And, it's not something you first directly think about when you talk about PTSD and anxiety.
No. But it's interesting you mentioned that, because there are tons of fiber groups out there, across the states, that work directly with the VA
Mhm.
to do that. Textile therapy is a very real thing, and it's something that is being used to great effect. Like, there are tons of images out there from the VA that show participants in those programs, like guys out there doing these things in therapy groups.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that sooner or later, I want my nonprofit to do, work directly with the VA to be able to get those textile things maybe down to Michael E. Blakely, or maybe up to Conroe, or, any number of VA outpatients.
Honestly, I think between Houston and the Conroe VA, I think we still got a couple like what in Humble and Tomball. I mean, you got quite a few to choose from and pick at.
You know, but
It's just
you know,
it's just getting those people to actually listen and give you that opportunity as well.
absolutely. And all we can really do is ask people to listen. You gave me the opportunity to tell my story and what it is we're trying to do. So as long as we're just asking people to listen, that's really pretty much all I can say.
So, what's your future goals for your nonprofit? W- where do you see as in, and I hate to use the term "make it" and that you made it, but other than the social media, being able to hire a social media person,
Yeah.
like
Number one.
where do you want this organization to go?
And that's an extremely easy question. I want it to be the premier organization for men in the fiber arts. I have no idea what year goal that is, but that's something that we're working for.
Mm.
Right now, it's going to be Houston. In a couple of years, I see us working with veterans, with school districts, to bring about the mental health benefits of textiles in the school, with the students with ADHD members, or kiddos that have autism. All of these things can be amazing for students like that. So definitely in a couple of years, I see us working with, hopefully with the VA by then, working with whole school districts on a curriculum to help students succeed. And, I mean, really from there, the sky's the limit.
I think it would be amazing to see that in schools because it almost seems that nowadays with the push of technology that once you have a special needs child that is having a problem, they usually just try to shove a tablet, a TV show, or something in front of them just to get them calmed down for 5 seconds, rather than focusing that energy like we've been talking about, that focusing that energy and that rage onto something that's actually productive.
Yeah. And it's something that we've seen firsthand with MTCF. And it's something that we want to expand on in the future. Not entirely certain what that looks like just yet for us, because we certainly don't have the manpower to be able to
Mhm.
move in that direction yet. But it's something that we had always considered along our lines of our education. Being able to go out there and help people, the wellness part of it, build the community.
And that's going to take a lot of help from all the fiber groups, and of course, men trying to get past the stigma and everything, because that seems to be one of the bigger drawbacks that you're going to be facing.
And it's certainly not going to change overnight.
No.
It's definitely, we absolutely realize it won't change overnight. But the key thing to breaking a stigma is just repeated exposure, like
Mhm.
repeated exposure. And that's something that, our social media does. We try and find the voices out there, the male voices out there, and amplify them. But I mean, it's also just not the male voices either. There are women that are doing great things for men in the fiber arts too. So we want to, expose that and bring that up. Ultimately, what we want to do is break the stigma, and however we can do that, that's what we want to amplify.
Now, are you going to have plans to have like an auxiliary group for female veterans and stuff too?
We're all
Because
one. Yep, all one. So when it comes to the men's textile collective,
Mhm.
there was a very specific reason why I called it the Men's Textile Collective Foundation. It's because of this stigmatized space. One of the easiest ways to break that is to let guys know that they are welcome here, that there is something that is catering to them here, and that's why we called it the Men's Textile Collective. And that was more along the lines a way to signal to anybody that you are welcome here, you know. So one of the things that we always bring up with any veteran is that everybody is welcome, everybody is here to help break the stigma, and everybody can join us at a group.
so female, male, family members,
Yeah,
you don't care.
we don't care. We just want everybody there to sit down and enjoy, knitting or crochet or whatever it is.
So, how does one of your groups look? Like, let's say you get a bunch of veterans together. Let's say you got 5 veterans. Was your little group session look
You
like?
know, the considering that the kind of people that are going to be listening to this podcast, when you go out on a fishing trip with your buddies, what happens?
You calm down, you relax, and you just talk.
And you shoot the shit. You know, when you go out hunting with your friends, um, yeah, you're sitting in a blind, but sooner or later you start having those little conversations. You start having the, um, saying, whatever. You open up to your friends. The same thing happens at one of our textile gatherings. Sometimes we don't talk shit. I mean,
Mhm.
there have been whole times where we'll sit there for 20 minutes and just concentrate on whatever it is we're doing. Other times we're pretty fucking vocal, and we'll talk about things that guys will talk about. And there's there's absolutely a difference between the conversations from normal knitting circles that may be predominantly female, and like a social circle or with some guys.
Mhm.
Completely different conversations. um, and it's definitely eye opening.
Yeah, I could imagine a bunch of veterans just sitting around knitting and crocheting and then talking about, well, this one time in Iraq.
We had a veteran come to one, and he started telling us his stories, and it was absolutely amazing.
I think it would be hilarious, but also, like you said, an amazing eye opening experience. Because, I mean, it's just something you don't conceive that would be put together, knitting and war stories.
Yeah. One of the things that I realized real quick, I didn't think that guys were into quilting, at the time. When I really started looking at social media, and social media it was becoming bigger, I very quickly realized that, there are guys out there. There are tons of guys out there that do this. But we were also separated because nobody knew about us. We didn't have the YouTube channels. We didn't have the Instagram followers. We didn't have the, excuse me, the fiber influencers that would, amplify any of our voices. So it definitely, knowing that there are other people out there, or, getting the recognition.
It's going to happen. I mean, it's going to take time. And I mean, it's just going to be like this podcast. We're not going to have 100 1,000 downloads after on the first episode, it's going to be months and weeks of grinding, and unfortunately, it's going to be a lot of social media. That's just the one thing I don't look forward to, and it's dreading.
No input from me there because I'm definitely, yeah, I dread social media.
So basically, once you got out is when you decided to start this organization.
You know, actually, I figured I wanted to start this organization well before I got out, because I realized, you know, I was a quilter for many years, and realizing that there is the stigma, you know, and everything else. With that comes the lack of representation in the commercial field. Um, you know, Fisker scissors are nice. Everybody likes a nice orange handle, whatever. The women get all these cool looking little glittery, you know, crap. Where's my skulls? Like, I want my metal tools. I want those, you know, the big tools. Those, you know, the things that are catered to me. And when I realized that the market doesn't cater to that because they don't think guys do this, that is what kind of led me to think like, okay, I want to do something about that. Like, I really do. I didn't know what I was called. You know, I didn't know it was going to be eventually the Men's Textile Collective Foundation, but I knew I wanted to break that stigma somehow. And so leading up to retirement, it was always, I'm going to do this. Like, I am going to get out and I'm going to start my nonprofit. I mean, and that's basically what I did. We got out, moved from Abilene down to Houston. And for the past 3 years, I've been just chugging away at getting this foundation to a place where it is today.
I mean, and that's great that you came out with a plan rather than going, well, let me try to convert this into something and let's see if shit sticks to the wall.
Well, you know, and that's exactly what I did though, because, you know, I did come down here more with an idea. I definitely knew what I had wanted to do, and I thought I knew the direction that I was going. You know, really, we're almost 3 years old, you know, at this point, but most of the good direction hasn't come except for the past year. You know, I spent a good 2 years just taking that plan and just it blown up immediately, you know. So, you know, definitely as a business owner, how they say, you know, roll with the change. You know, I got rolled pretty hard. You're an amazing conversationalist.
I try until I have my blank moments like this, and then it just goes, I can't remember anything. And there's like so many different topics I want to cover, so many different things I want you to be able to speak about, and then it just goes
and you're really
out the window.
And you're really good at leading me into it too.
I try.
Because like I'll hear the picket, I'm like, oh shit, I could talk about that. Like,
well, I also got the crazy voice in my head that's in my editing room that's telling me every now and then. I'll just hear him, hey, when did he start it? Oh, okay, yeah, that is actually a good idea. But he's doing good with me. But with all this, I mean, what are you going to try to do to fund it all?
You know, right now I'm not even thinking about that. Okay. And the reason I say that is because while we do have the ways we raise a little bit of funds, at the moment I'm not actually looking for capital. I'm not looking for the huge influx of money just yet because we are still so very new. I think we do have a small bank account that we've been able to raise some funds for, and we use that to, you know, pay for the things that we need to. But at the moment, it really is just relying on donations. It's relying on the yarn that we sell from the donations that we get. When it comes to that, it's, you know, more along the lines of there's really good yarn that's good for teaching, and we'll take that out and we'll, you know, go use that in our programs. But then there's just really thin yarn that, or maybe it's black or a certain variegated color that just you don't want to teach with. We'll take that yarn and we will resell it to the people who need it or want it. So we have gone to fiber festivals with this, you know, slightly used donated yarn, and it's just gotten, you know, bought right up. People love the idea. And there is just definitely something they can get into. But we'll take that money, and so far that money has been able to really finance everything we need between
Hmm.
the donations that we get, the yarn, maybe a couple other donations here and there. But uh, right now, we're not specifically looking for grants.
Hmm.
And you asked, when is that point? Uh, I'm a firm believer that I'll know it when I get there.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine that donations are going to be one of the biggest parts of your organization, and considering I don't think I've ever really not seen yarn or scraps of fabric and stuff posted all over either Facebook,
Oh yeah.
Craigslist, and stuff. I mean, it's plenty out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely one of the places we go to as well. We search on Facebook and, the other different ad sites and it was like, hey, you would consider donating, or anything like that. Sometimes we get lucky, sometimes we don't.
You miss 100% the shots you don't take. Though,
Exactly.
so I mean, if they're gonna donate it, I mean, at least donate it to a good cause, or it's better than just either throwing it away or just scrapping it.
And it does go to a good cause. Um, just to give you an idea, some of the yarn donations we get is half, like letterbox yarn that we call craft yarn, things like that.
Yeah, we were talking about donations and what you do with the stuff.
Oh, so yeah, with the donations, typically half of the donation will be what we call craft yarn, but still usable for
Mhm.
everything, and the other half is the type of yarn that you would get from a specific fiber color mill or something. Super nice yarn.
Mhm.
What we'll do is we'll look at that and we'll separate it out and basically put anything that's good for teaching, like people that you wanted to learn on. We'll put that in a one pile, and we'll sell the rest. When you talk about all of that yarn going to a good place, whether it goes to our educational programs where we're teaching high schoolers how to knit or crochet, or when we go down to Montrose Grace Place to work with homeless youth, um, anywhere we go to go out and teach, your yarn is being used for that. Um, when you donate yarn to us, your yarn is going to be used in an educational program, and at some point sooner or later we're going to use it to teach someone, which I think is very powerful in itself. On the flip side of that, even if you're giving us something very nice that you're just like, oh, I don't want it anymore, and I don't need it, we can take that and we resell it to somebody who does want it, specifically maybe that color, or to do whatever, and we're still raising those funds to be able to support those programs. So when you donate yarn to us, like, you are participating directly in our educational programs. Almost every single cent goes to those programs.
Now, is it just yarn, or you do like scraps of fabric, or is there any? Is it open to all type of knitting, crochet, and type materials, or is it limited?
And we take everything. We take everything from yarn donations to fabric donations. We absolutely need Christmas fabric more than anything else because of a partnership that we do with Pathways around the end of the year. We make Christmas stockings for the kiddos in foster care with Pathways.
Search secondhand or thrift stores, resale shops, and stuff,
Mhm.
because usually after Christmas, about January, February, it's all in there. You might get some good deals.
100%. But yeah, we take absolutely everything, and even if we don't have a use for it at the moment, our network is constantly expanding.
Oh yeah.
So we could find somebody who needs it and literally just pass it over to somebody who can use it.
Okay, so you're gonna promote knitting and crocheting, but tell me how you've actually directly seen it help someone, benefit someone, and you don't have to use names or anything, but let me know, like, how have you seen it change somebody and help them?
At one of our group, there was a group of us. I want to say there was four, and we were sitting at a local yarn store over on 249 called Kaniketsu, and it was a group of us, and we were sitting there, and it was kind of quiet. Um, and you could tell, like, this person was working through something, and we're just kind of like, what's up? Just like if you're sitting in the duck blind, or if you're out on the fishing boat, like, you can tell when something is on your mind. And at that point, that person was just like, you're working through it. You can tell he's really concentrating, And he very slowly started to open up about a trauma that had happened to him a couple months prior. And you could tell that he's sitting there like using the craft to kind of work through his emotions. Like as he stitches a thing, I will process this. As I stitch that, you could literally see on his face as it's coming out, as he is talking, how he's working through it. Um, and that is one of the very first moments when I realized that, like, I mean, I wish I could describe it. There is power
Mhm.
in being able to do that. And that was one of those points where it just, you'll never forget it.
Well, what about you? You touch your product. Let's hear your story.
I had mentioned earlier that I left the military with a pretty severe anxiety issue. Um, and I'll be forthcoming. It was absolutely from my early TI days, when there is just a metric ton of pressure to put on you to perform. I mean, it left me, it didn't leave me with PTSD or anything, but I definitely have some mental issues related to that. And, when I had picked up quilting, um, my, mm, I, it turned that stuff off. It literally turned the shit off. Because I would sit there and worry about what my flight was doing every minute of every day. Because I know if they did anything wrong, my boss would be down my. So it was one of those things that quilting was the only thing that turned that off. It got to the point where it was kind of hard to sleep sometimes, because of that. But so, I mean, and that's, my personal story behind why I know this works. I discovered something new when I realized I needed to expand my fiber world, with this organization. And I picked up crochet. I discovered something new when you do, the repetitive motions with your hands, because I think I was sitting at the pool, my neighborhood pool, and I was working on crochet, and my son was swimming in the pool, and we had a lot going on at the moment, and just sitting there crocheting, and my brain just went numb. It was one of those single stitch crochet patterns that requires no brain power, none at all. So you get lost in the repetitive motions, and your brain just literally kind of slips sideways and shuts off. Um, I didn't realize anything had happened until my son, runs up from the pool like, "Daddy, Daddy, did you see that?" And like all that. I was like, oh, yeah, yes, I saw it. I saw it." So I know firsthand the amazing benefits that this stuff can provide.
And I think, even with you having your own story of how it helps you with anxiety and stuff, I mean, just even being able to speak that should be able to help a lot of other people go, well, you know what? I can actually try that. I might try it. I've tried all the other crap, the drugs the VA's thrown at me,
Mhm.
all the over counter melatonin and everything. Let's try something else finally. And hopefully it actually gets somebody to go out of their comfort zone, because I think that's what a lot of it is, going outside your comfort zone, breaking past that stigma and getting in there and just doing it and actually seeing and feeling the benefits from it firsthand.
And that's why I'm trying to break that stigma, because that stigma is the barrier to entry. I think a lot of people who want to help veterans and things like that, they want to break down the barriers to help. And for me, that barrier is that stigma. I want to be able to talk to vets and be like, "Hey, you should try knitting," and not get a look of like utter horror. You know, um, I'll know you had asked the question how I know I'll succeed when I get to the point and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay." That's how I know when MTCF will be successful.
And that'll probably be very, not only enlightening, but very satisfying to you to actually see an amount of success of going, we don't have to deal with this anymore. People are actually wanting to do this.
And you know what? Thank God for social media. Because we were talking about social media earlier. Like I may not enjoy social media all that much or anything, but I absolutely have to say that all of the people who don't mind social media have gotten out there and put their faces out there So now they've done more for breaking that stigma in the past, I want to say 5, 6 years or so, than for decades before. So the stigma is definitely being broken. It's being broken faster because you have amazing content creators out there like Brochet. If you haven't heard from him, fucking hilarious dude. There are the veteran knitter from the UK who recently broke a world record for knitting in a London Marathon.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and not to mention the amount of Olympic skiers actually from the Winter Olympics. We were taking those social media posts and amplifying those people because they, like we were talking about, they do represent that everyday person. Like, see, you can do this, and talk about breaking the stigma. It's happening. We just want it to happen a little faster.
Yeah. I mean, and you are right. Social media does help a lot with it, especially with like YouTube and Facebook and stuff. And could you imagine doing this kind of shit on MySpace or pre MySpace? I mean, it would never get shared. There was no content to it. Or have an 8-second vine of you going, I'm a dude.
You're showing your age there.
Yeah. Well, I remember the days of ICQ and AOL Instant Messenger. So,
the death knell trying to connect to the internet.
Oh, I still have horror memories of that. You got mail. But then you got people with that as the ringtone for when they get text or email, and you're like, did they come back? But I think they just said it, like AOL not too long ago officially closed down their emails or something.
Yeah, it was a little while ago.
It was a sad day in history. Just like with the Cartoon Network cartoons. No, I had when I first got out, I got really big into model making. And I specifically went for ships, like the USS Constitution and stuff, the old wartime pirate ships. And I didn't realize the beneficial factors of that either. And again, it's like you're saying, it's using your hands, dealing with small items, trying to paint the little cannons or do the rigging for a ship with very thin thread. And it makes you concentrate on it to an extent, but like you said, not enough to where it's taking your full concentration.
See, like your shipbuilding for you would be like my quilting for me. When I want to do quilting, it's because my brain doesn't completely turn off, because I have to concentrate on what I'm doing. I don't want a needle going through my, my finger. I like precision. When I make my quilts, I do like it to be precise. I like the edges to match up. I like the four corners to be where they were. And especially with shipbuilding, it's the same thing. Like I like my cannon to be here. This needs to be slotted into place perfectly. And I realized that there are certain brain types that will take to these hobbies more than others. So I find it interesting that you do enjoy shipbuilding, because now I would challenge you, give quilting a try, because the ideas are the same.
I think our youngest daughter, she's tried to get into it too. And now it's going to be like one of those, we'll sit down and start working on it together and just get lost, probably watch a movie or something.
And that is exactly how a lot of guys get started in it. In the 3 years that we've been doing this, I have collected tons of stories. And you would not believe how common that thread is. We have heard numerous stories from the guys who have picked up their hobbies as a way to connect with their family. Specifically, their daughters and sons. When the son wants to make a blanket, they will sit there and they will make a blanket together. A daughter who is really into, let's say, crochet. She likes to make the little amigurumis. And we had a dude who was like, well, I want to be closer to my daughter and I want to help her and I want to make her things for her amigurumis. So he learned crochet as a way to connect with his daughter. And just, you would not believe the amount of stories of guys who have done that. I got a friend of mine into crochet, and he immediately started making things for his family. He was like, well, I got a baby on the way, so I guess I'm going to make a little baby blanket now. It's the awesomest thing ever. It just says badass. And then the kids were like, well, where's my badass blanket? And he would make scarves for his wife. And it's just absolutely amazing, the stories you hear from why they pick it up, like growing closer to somebody. So yeah, go for it, man.
Well, it's like My kiddo came to me one day. He wanted to do soccer. He was done with Boy Scouts, wanted to do soccer. I don't know the first thing about
Me
soccer.
neither.
I
And mine
no
wants to do
clue.
the same.
I just know you use your feet unless you're the goalie. But yet now I'm sitting here as his coach for his soccer league and going, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah.
That's when you know you're old.
Yeah.
You're going, I was just going to sign you up for the league, send you on your way, but now I'm sitting here coaching you.
Yeah. So maybe to bring us back on topic, there was we had mentioned, building the, family being closer together.
Mhm.
Pathways is one of our very close sponsors, very close partnerships with us. And we absolutely love Pathways Youth and Family Services, Texas-wide nonprofit dedicated around adoptive foster youth. And one of the things that we're trying to put together is a somewhat of a program, like a textile program that their families can take advantage of as a way to grow closer together. So we're approaching Pathways with, hey, the idea, let us use your space completely for free. We'll teach a family how to quilt. We'll teach a family how to amigurumi, and they can work together, to create something as a form of, family bonding, especially with families that are foster families that, may still be trying to build that trust between one and the another.
And that still helps you branch out in multiple different ways. And it's still, it's not even just about the veterans or men at that time. It's just people.
There are so many benefits to the textile arts, and we're not just talking about, the mental health. Like you had said, being able to watch somebody pick up that hobby and grow closer with their family,
Mhm.
that is really cool. There was a gentleman that I had talked to who picked up the textile art because his wife died, and she would make shawls for the church, and he kind of picked that up and took it over. You know, so there are tons of reasons why somebody would want to pick this up. No one reason may fit another, until you just give it a try and see if it's
Mm.
something that you want to do.
And I think, and it goes back to what we were saying is it's just getting to the point of picking up to try and admitting to yourself that let's try it. Let's see what it does. Let's see how it can benefit me.
And like I said before, like I'll be, forthcoming. It's not for everybody. It's, do your research on maybe the hobby and try and pick one. But, sometimes just sitting there and knitting a knit stitch isn't for you. And, we totally understand that, but at least you gave it a try.
Now, how other ways are you going to branch out? Is it like besides the knitting and quilting? Is there like another way that you can expand, or have you thought about trying to expand in those aspects?
So in those aspects, I do kind of see the MTCF kind of taking on more of a foundation role, meaning we would love to be able to generate enough money to do the research to show, to
Mm.
put the science behind that. We want to use that science to bring actual mental health programs to places like the VA, the medical hospitals, maybe some of the psychiatric hospitals around here. We would love to be able to go to Camp Hope and be like, hey, we have this amazing program that we can work with. So we see ourselves, investing in places that not necessarily like break the stigma on the front, but build the foundation for everything under.
I could see Camp Hope being a very good beneficial aspect for that. Just even just coming in for a Saturday afternoon
Yeah,
for a couple hours and just sitting down with people and be like almost a little mini therapy session.
absolutely. But yeah, you had mentioned, being able, what does that look like? So ultimately, between breaking the stigma and the mental health benefits of all of that, especially for our veterans, we really just want to be able to bring that to the table and help, ultimately.
And you know, I've heard great things about Camp Hope. I've never visited there. I've actually been meaning to reach out for them even for this 'cause I think that'd be awesome to have such a well known company, or not even company, organization within the Houston area, just even be able to be on the podcast to represent themselves and what they do. Because yeah, I've seen so many different, not necessarily advertisements, but their way of branding and stuff, and they're they do a lot for the veterans and veteran community.
Absolutely.
If you need to tell us about anything specific with MTC.
We pretty much covered everything. Like, and I'm just truly thankful for the opportunity to get this out there. When we had kind of, I don't want to say, when we had started the year, when we had started 2026, it was the opportunities that were presenting themselves were very education heavy.
Mhm.
So, we started working with Tomball, we started working with Hamilton, and over the past couple of weeks, a lot of first responder / veteran things have started to happen. So I was joking with my friend that, maybe it might be the summer of the veteran or the summer of the first responder. But we're excited to be working into this demographic.
Mhm.
And we absolutely want to invite anybody, if this resonates with them, if this is something that you could be interested, please reach out to us. menstextilecollective.org, menstextilecollectivefoundation.org. And, we will put you in contact with whoever you need, even if that's us sitting down and working with you to teach you, or if that is giving us connections, because, we still need connections to grow too. We absolutely invite you on board. We are always looking for people who are passionate about our mission. And that mission is taking care of people's mental health by breaking that stigma.
Mhm. And the quilt you brought in today, that's the one that you basically started all this with?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have to get some pictures and videos of that so we can actually, plaster it up on the screen whenever we're talking about it.
Hell yeah.
No, it's a really cool story. And when you first reached out, it was one of those 20-year Air Force veteran who loves knitting and quilting. And it wasn't even like a negative look at it. It was just, it's an interesting thing. You don't hear it often. And, just even be able to get in here and sit down and talk with you about it. I've learned actually a lot about not only your organization, but what you guys do in general and really how much it can potentially help people. And I would love to see it actually grow and really reach the levels that you want it to.
Thanks.
I think that'd be amazing. Especially if you have your own line of scissors, knitting needles, and everything else.
That is still on the table. I have a ton of ideas that I have put together. That if I get enough grant money or anything, then we might try and put a line out there or something. But we had a couple bags, some mole bags, mole shoulder pouches, and things like that. Because believe it or not, mole works really well for knitting supplies and yarn. So we had a couple of those, and I mean, they sold pretty well. So
Oh, that's good. I mean, and it's like you said. I think a lot of it also is if guys actually did have the utensils, the scissors and stuff that looked manly, it might attract them just a little bit more. And if you can get that line,
yeah.
that'd be amazing.
So there's definitely some extremely nice, high quality stuff out there. But you look at everything else too, because pretty much everybody's attracted to nice, big, good stuff. But when you look at the way the market caters
Mm-hmm.
to that, and a lot of people who listen to this right now are like, oh shit, I know exactly what he's talking about. With the way they cater to that really excludes like a lot of other people. And it was really that exclusion that really helped me like, shit, I want to fix that, because I'm pretty novel like that. I want my skull and crossbone scissors. I want a ruler that has fucking flames on it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I got money to spend. I want a flaming ruler. So it's, I want to be able to help that demographic. Because, like I said, if I break the stigma, more men are going to go out there and buy things, right? When more men go out there and buy things, they're going to realize that there's nothing on the market for them. And, we like to gripe and complain.
Mm-hmm.
So sooner or later, a market study is going to be done and be like, oh shit, men are now, I don't know, like 40% of our buying power. What do we have on the market for them? Nothing. So, and that right there is what we're trying to change. Because the moment we can show the value, and when I was talking about the science behind it, we want to be able to go to those marketing companies, those other companies like Fiskars, the big companies, that cater to sewing products and things like that. We want to take that data, be like, look, you have a buying power here that you are ignoring. Because I already know for a fact there are a fuck ton of us that are in this demographic, and you're not catering to us. So, put some fucking flames on the scissors, and you might actually see, some people buy them.
And I think that's a lot with other professions too, because I know at one point gardening, it was only specific tools and stuff. Even tattoo artists, I believe, they decided to branch out and make it more not necessarily gender neutral, but it can fit either male, female, and stuff like that. And I don't even go so far as even to the mechanic world.
Yeah.
Is just a couple of things out there. I think I've seen quite a few pink tape measures.
Yeah. And you know what? They can do the same the opposite way. So,
Yeah.
Like I said, that's what we want to be able to do. Like, take the data to them and be like, if you throw something on the market, there's a very good chance that people will be interested.
Mhm.
But on the flip side of that, I want to bring people in so that they do go out there and buy them. So,
And I think a lot of it's going to be that they're going to wait on somebody else to come up with these ideas, implement these ideas, and get that brand out. Because Fiskars, Singer, and stuff like that, they're going to be. We don't want to spend millions of dollars to run ad campaigns and to make new molds so we can make the scissors and stuff. So we want to see it work before we invest.
yeah. And the funny thing is, thinking about it, I don't think it would really be all that much. We're not asking for something different. All we're asking for is a paint job on some scissors. All we're asking for is some light etching on a ruler or something. We're not asking them to reinvent the wheel.
Put a wrap on it.
Exactly. Put a wrap on it and, sell it out there. Because I promise you, it's not just men. Like, I have talked to so many women that have been like, oh, yeah, if they put some skulls on some scissors, I'd buy that shit. Like, yeah, I know.
Put the what is it? The candy skulls, the Mexican ones,
Yeah.
for the Day of the Dead and things. Sugar skulls, that's what it is.
Absolutely.
That was close. Candy sugar.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, put those on there, and I guarantee you those will get bought up. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be your normal pink or orange handled pair of scissors.
100%.
So you're still going to do the same thing with it. Still going to make the same thing.
Yeah. And now you know what I'm fighting against.
And sadly, it's going to be a long fight. But when you do break through that fight, it'll be an amazing experience for you.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
So,
Definitely a lot more choices out there, and I'm looking forward to it.
I can't wait to go to the store and see a sewing machine with just wrapped in skulls and flames and stuff.
And you know what? It exists, but you have to buy the sewing machine, and then you have to take it somewhere where they'll paint it on there for you. It's definitely not something a company is doing yet, but there are some companies that I think are starting to learn the lesson, because some of their you mentioned sewing machines. Some of their sewing machines are coming out less curvy, and everything, and more boxy, more industrial, more subdued colors instead of the loud pinks or pastel yellows. They're now coming in like a graphite color or a dark maroon or things like that. So I think there is maybe a testing that I think some companies are doing at the moment to see how well they sell. Because this is definitely a thing that's only I've noticed in the past maybe 3 years. So they could take, it could be taking their time, be like, okay, will this sell? And I hope it has, because I want more stuff like that.
It'll take time. That's the sad part. But like I said, it'll take time. But when it does happen, it'll be nice.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to have your scissors with skulls and your ruler with flames.
Graphite, wood, things like that. Yeah.
Yes, the manly things.
The manly things.
All right. So, last chance. Anything else that you can think of that you want to cover? Anything that needs to be said? Anything that you're pissed off about?
I'm pissed off at everything. I'm one of those angry old men. Like, get off my door! But honestly, like a lot I owe the military a lot of the reason for why I am where I am right now. And I do mean that in both a good and a bad way. Um, I would not, for a single second, take it back. I would not do anything different, because the mission and vision that I have now is because of my time in the military. And I 100% understand the gravity of, one's experiences. And it's looking at my experiences and what brought me to this moment. It happened in the blink of an eye, like we were talking about earlier. But here I am, and it's pretty fucking awesome.
And like you, I think that's where this podcast originated from, was my time in the military, but it's taken me so much longer to get here. But I wouldn't change that for a day. Coming here, being able to sit down, talk with you, talk with others, and hear y'all's story and help yours mission. I probably would have never done this if I joined the military. Granted, I never thought about it before I joined the military, but it's one of those, sad or happy coincidences that come into play. And yeah, the time in the military wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst. But seeing what is created and what is built and what has driven me to do, driven you to do, it kind of says something about
Yeah, the friendships, the things that happen in, as somebody would say, the foxhole. I was stationed at Prince Sultan Air Base, Saudi Arabia, one of the bases that was recently attacked. I want to say about a month ago. We were never attacked while we were there, but we had many drills. So, I went to those bunkers, when we were testing, and, the things you talk about in the bunker and, things like that. While we were all joking, like, oh, is the exercise over? I can imagine what some of the conversations were when they were hiding in those bunkers. So I can 100%, understand the connections that are created, being in the military and looking back on them.
I don't know. Those conversations in the bunkers when we had mortars coming in, there wasn't really much said. If there was, it was usually like the dark humor jokes or something, because
Yeah.
it came to the point where we could tell how far a mortar was going to be from us just by the small sound it made.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing because when we first got out there, you could tell who was new and who's been out there for a year, because you hear that first mortar, all the new guys hit the ground.
Mhm.
And then you see the seasoned guys just still walking around like, the hell are you doing? We got work to do. That's nowhere near us. You got another 50 yards.
Yeah.
So, no, but in the bunkers, it was usually a lot of dark humor.
Absolutely.
But it was still camaraderie. It was still nice knowing that, hey, I'm not in this concrete bunker and might die.
Yeah.
At least not die alone. I go, you go with me. Alrighty then. Well, I guess we can wrap this one up.
Sounds good.
It was awesome to have you on, especially technically as the first guest in the studio.
Thanks.
It was a wonderful conversation. You have some amazing energy. So
I blame the caffeine.
oh yeah, no, so many Red Bulls and coffee for me.
Oh, the rippets. Yep. Oh, the look. You just, yeah. Or like, shit, I forgot about this.
You see, I drink Red Bull when I was deployed. I didn't have rippets, but that's all I've seen over social media since the new stuff.
Wow. You hear that? He had no rippets.
I'm gonna go to my mailbox one day. There's gonna be like a whole box of them. Enjoy. my control room guy's gonna bring some room over.
Awesome.
All right. Well, again, I appreciate your time. It was awesome meeting you. It was awesome sitting down talking to you for now an hour and a half. Wow. Told you it'd go by.
I can talk.
All right, boss.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on.